What is going on, guys? So I'm going to talk the Florida Gators tonight. This is the day after National Signing Day. I'm going to talk about the class they pulled in, how they fared on the transfer portal, guys to look out for in JUCO that I think are going to lean Florida's way, and we'll go over my expectations, at least for 2021, which I think you'll find a little different than what people have been saying on how they feel Florida will fare next year. But before I do that, please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm just getting started. I love college football. I could talk it all day. So any type of support you could give me would be greatly appreciated. So getting into this Florida team, first we'll look back at 2020. So 2020 was really kind of a roller coaster ride. It truly was. I mean, Florida got off to a great start. They were the talk of college football, and then they lose a game to Texas A&M, which they should have won. They completely let things get away from them. They should have won that game. Then they get things rolling again. They knock off Georgia for the first time in a few years. And then as long as they can beat Alabama, in fact, even if they would have lost Alabama and they were to handle business, they might have had a playoff run or a chance at the playoff. But what did they do? They end up losing to LSU. And there's no need to get into it. We've heard about it. Everybody knows what happened in that LSU game. Then they play Alabama, and they actually give Alabama their best game of the year. There is no doubt about it. Alabama defensively could not stop Florida. As a college football fan, I was watching that game and thought to myself, if Florida ends this game with the ball last, they're going to win. They're going to beat Alabama, but they just ran out of time. And then they go to the bowl game and they completely laid an egg. I mean, that was not the team that Florida fielded the entire season. And all these guys decide to opt out. They're getting ready for the NFL. And Dan Mullen described it as pretty much a scrimmage game. Now, me personally, I think that was not a good thing to do. I don't think that was the classy way to go. But I think he's kind of right. So Florida ends the year 8-4, and people expect 2021 to be worse than last year. And I get it, because you lose Kyle Trask, you lose Kyle Pitts, you lose Kadarius Toney, you lose a couple of guys off that offensive line. So people are expecting them to regress. Now, this recruiting class that they pulled in, they picked up 22 guys, finished number 11 according to Rivals.com. And they addressed a lot of those needs that they have. You know, I think they picked up 4 offensive linemen, picked up a couple of quarterbacks, a couple of tight ends, 6 defensive backs, and they're hoping that they could plug these guys in and maybe keep things going at Florida. A couple of other pieces, though, that aren't really tied to recruiting that I actually think make this class as a whole, if you were to factor this in, much better than the number 11 class, is how they fared on the transfer portal. I mean, with the exception of Oklahoma, and you could argue Florida did better than Oklahoma, nobody did better in the transfer portal. I mean, Florida, they lose Kyle Pitts and they go out and they get Eric Gilbert. And Eric Gilbert is, he's young, but he is Kyle Pitts in the future. He is going to have numbers like Kyle Pitts because Dan Mullen knows how to use those tight ends. He recognizes that it's a mismatch for any defense. I don't care who you are. And he's a big guy, 6'5". He's 250 pounds. He's got good hands. And even at LSU, as a freshman, had 2 touchdowns, over 350 yards receiving, and 38 catches. So it wasn't like he was a non-factor, but clearly after the season LSU had in 2019, I think he was expecting something better. So he goes over there. You know what Florida also did was pick up DeMarcus Bowman. Now, DeMarcus Bowman, coming from Clemson, was the backup behind Travis Etienne. And he wasn't there very long, and I don't think it was anything that he did. I think it was more so he got homesick. That's at least what I've heard. He's from Florida, so he's coming home, and he's a very fast guy. You've got something now at running back that you didn't have last year. And that's not taking anything away from Florida's running game last year, but it was all about the pass, and we all know that. So you've got your Kyle Pitts and Eric Gilbert. You've got a running back now that is a speedster, 5-star guy from Clemson. And two questions people want to know, and these are clearly, I think, the biggest questions. How's Emory Jones going to replace Kyle Trask? I think most people expect that Florida passing game to fall back, and I wouldn't be surprised if it falls back a little bit, but I'll tell you right now, Emory Jones brings something that Kyle Trask doesn't, and that's mobility. He can make plays happen with his feet that Kyle Trask couldn't dream of doing. When things break down in the pocket, Emory Jones can get out of town. And, I'm not going to sit here and critique his ability to throw too much because he only threw 32 passes all of last year, and 16 of them were in that game against Oklahoma, in which he didn't have one starting wide receiver out there for the most part. So I don't really think you can pass too much judgment on Emory Jones at this point. We'll see how the season plays out. The other question is the offensive line. You lose your center. You lose two guys on that offensive line that were huge pieces. But you also have Gene DeLance and Stuart Reese that are using COVID to their advantage, and they're going to return. So you have a little continuity there. You also, when you go to the JUCO side of things, you've got a guy named De'Ave Hammond. Now, he was a recruit by Florida, had some issues, had to go down to JUCO, but there's a good chance Florida could land him, and if they do, he'll be on the field next year, and he is the number 1 rated guard out of JUCO. So I think those pieces, with the people they picked up in the recruiting class, could be answered by next year. And look, Florida didn't have any problems really with pass protection. I mean, they were okay as far as the offensive line goes, but they were not a good run blocking offensive line at all. And I think they will improve next year. I mean, only time will tell. That's just how I feel it's going to go. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, look, Florida could get to the quarterback last year. They were able to put pressure on the quarterback. They got their fair share of sacks. But with the exception of that, they didn't do much else. They were a terrible team in pass coverage. They were not a good fundamental team. I mean, that was really showcased when you look at the Oklahoma game with all the missed tackles. And, Todd Grantham, his job was on the line. And if you ask me, I don't know why Dan Mullen decided to stick with Todd Grantham, but he did. So we will see what he does next year. What I can tell you is if things don't turn around, I believe Todd Grantham will be gone next year. And this recruiting class, they tried to address a lot of those needs. They picked up 6 defensive backs and, to try to fill some of those holes. And also going back to JUCO, DeJuan Black. Okay, he's an outside linebacker. He's the number 1 rated JUCO player according to 24/7. So, there's a good possibility that he's on the field and he sees playing time next year too. So, in my personal opinion, I only think this Florida defense can improve because they really couldn't be much worse than they were last year. And they've got talent. I mean, it's Florida. You got a crop of guys coming in every year. So, when I look at the season, now I haven't broke down the schedules. I will do that later. But 8-4 is not hard to beat, I think. I think they have guys that can be better than 8-4. Now, if you were to ask me and I were to be honest, sure, I think Georgia is the best team in the East next year. On paper, Georgia should win the East. And we'll see how it goes in the SEC championship game. But don't sleep on Florida. That's all I'm saying. They very well could surprise some people, and I would not be surprised at all if they win more than 8 games next year. So we'll see how it plays out. I just wanted to come in here and talk a little bit about it. There's a couple of things that I missed, but trust me, we'll get to them. Like I said, you guys please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to get some more content coming. I'm going to try to hook my setup a little bit. I'm using my cell phone right now, but hey, like I said, I'm just getting started. So we'll talk to you guys later.